Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. I didn't watch the Karate Kid spin-off Cobra Kai when it was part of the YouTube Premium service, but it just recently hit Netflix, so I decided to sit down and binge it. The question is, are you binging it? Cobra Kai focuses a lot on Johnny Lawrence after his defeat at the All-Valley Championship by Daniel LaRusso. Johnny's down on his luck, doesn't have much going for him, he's kind of stuck in the past, and his life really isn't what he dreamed it could be. He is approached by a bullied kid living in his apartment complex and asked if he would teach him karate, which then leads Johnny to reopen up the Cobra Kai dojo. Normally, I try not to let on too much how I like or dislike a show, unless it's absolute trash and a dumpster fire, and then there's just nothing positive to say about it. Cobra Kai, though, is exactly the opposite. I am about to gush all over this show, especially because it embodies one of the things I hold dear in character dramas, and that is growth by the characters themselves. And I love that growth is one of the main themes of the show. The first 2 seasons, which are the only seasons at the moment of Cobra Kai, have dropped on Netflix, and Netflix picked it up as for their platform, and so there will be a season 3 coming. William Zabka as Johnny is really the star of this show, and I gotta tell you that no matter what you felt for him in the original Karate Kid, I mean, he's made out to be the bully, to be just the antagonist. In this, he is so much a sympathetic character. We see that he has a lot of troubles and issues, and we get to see where that comes from as the series goes on. That in different episodes, we get to see little bits and pieces of his past, of everything that he's dealt with, and just how that got him to where he is today. But I love that we watch him try to do the right thing. I mean, he messes up a lot of the time, and he gets in his own way a lot too, but you can see his heart, and you can see how he's actively trying to do the right thing, and how it frustrates him when he messes up, and then it just, all of his past comes back in, and it clouds everything, and so he'll make 2 steps forward, and then take 3 steps back, and so it's just this back and forth for him, so he's not making a lot of progress, but when he does, it's awesome to watch. I don't think a Karate Kid spin-off really works unless you have Karate Kid himself, Ralph Macchio, and he does return reprising his role as Daniel LaRusso. Throughout most of season 1, it's very odd to watch Daniel, the character of Daniel, be almost the antagonist. It's not that he's unlikable or bad, but he does lose his crap a lot of the time. And I guess you could say that about Johnny too. I mean, Daniel still has a really good heart, and he, too, is trying to do the right thing. Except his life has been going pretty well since the All-Valley Championship compared to Johnny's. But I like that we also still, within Daniel, the character, we get to watch him try and grow also. That he is making an attempt to better himself. He's not going to just stay stuck in wherever he's at and call his circumstances just what they are and live in that. That he is going to improve it, and he's going to improve himself for those around him. And I love the contrast that we get to see between Johnny and Daniel. While Johnny is struggling to make ends meet or just survive or just get through life, Daniel is flourishing. I mean, he is wildly successful. But even if he is wildly successful, that doesn't take away the fact that he still struggles. And so many of the kids in this are wonderful to watch. And I found myself going, oh, that's the new Johnny, or ooh, that one looks like the new Daniel. But really, there's a combo of both of those characters within so many of the kids that we get to watch. I mean, it's the product of their influence onto these kids, some of it good, some of it bad, and that comes from both sides of the teams. And even within the groups themselves, you get to see the desire for growth, the desire for change. And that's what I talked about. One of the main themes of this show is growth. And Johnny talks about it one time, and he's like, flip the script. If you don't like who you are, then change it. Reinvent yourself. Find out who you want to be, and then go after that and become that. We get to see that so many times illustrated through a lot of the characters. There are a lot of frustrating moments in this show, and most of it comes down to terrible communication skills. I mean, seriously, if Daniel and Johnny would just sit down and take a moment, take a beat, and talk to each other, then so many of their problems, their disagreements, all of this, their clashing of heads would go away because they would really get to understand each other. Now sure, a lot of the conflict, a lot of the drama, a lot of the fun of the show then just goes away. So I'm not advocating that they do totally just sit down and become buddy-buddy and yay, along we go, because then the show's over. And oh, that's a bummer. But it is good to watch them as adults interact and to be able to be civil to each other and then to lose their crap and have their little meltdowns and their temper tantrums and even sometimes go hand to hand. And even as Johnny and Daniel struggle, again, the whole growth theme, I love it that that's what they're teaching the kids also, that they're both mentoring, is, you know what? You can still be hard, you can still be awesome, you can still chase after your goals, but have honor when you do it. And that, I think, is really the largest area of growth for Johnny, is that we get to see him transition or try to transition from what he was brought up in the original Cobra Kai dojo to be that strike first, strike hard, no mercy. I love that there's a really large ensemble cast in this show, and it's not just around Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso, but it's also the whole new generation, and it's all the kids that are there as part of their respective dojos. But then it's also not just a couple of them. I mean, sure, we do have some of the standouts that are more of the stars that you would consider, but really you still have a lot that come in and out, and as the season progresses, some of them take a slightly more prominent role. And just like their senseis, Miguel, Robbie, Sam, and Aisha, they could probably all be the best of friends if they would figure out how to communicate to each other. I do love the amount of drama throughout the show. I mean, it puts us on this roller coaster of highs and lows, and it makes it really engaging and interesting to watch. And still frustrating at times too. There is a lot of conflict too that is in this show, and it's always on the move. And what that does is that illustrates to us the transformations that are going on within certain characters, because that's where we see a huge amount of conflict, and then are they learning from that? What did they learn from it, or did they not learn anything from it and they continue down that path? And then us as an audience are like, come on, you almost had it. The nostalgia on this show is so high. I mean, especially in season 1, there are a ton of flashbacks to the original movie. I mean, I love how the show will cut to a scene from the movie, and it really just lets us in to that character's head to know what they were thinking or what they're feeling, because it instantly, at least for those of us that remember seeing the movie, I mean, it instantly transports us to that time. There are also a lot of references, both visually and verbally, that do tie back into the first film. Now, the second season also uses some of these flashbacks, but they are used more sparingly. There's some characters that make reappearances from the first film and are now coming into the show. And I love that that creates conflict for certain characters. And it ties in that timeline even better. And I love that it shows how everybody's aged. I mean, it just adds a realism to it. And you watch these, what were high school students, now acting as parents and having to figure it all out, and their kids now also trying to figure it out, but much younger. There are 10 episodes in each season. Each of them are about 30 minutes. So that was 20 episodes, 10 hours back to back. Could not get enough of it. There are a little bit of weird time jumps within the show, and while it doesn't make that huge of a deal to the overall story, it would be nice to have a little bit of grounding within there, because sometimes they'll mention something where I was thinking it was the next day and it's months later. Or, you know, I was thinking it's months later and it's the next day. And so that lack of grounding was a little odd to me. And does that ultimately harm the narrative? No, it doesn't. But it would be really nice to have a firm grasp on how long a character has been dwelling on something or dealing with something. I mean, because if it is only a day, okay. But if it's been a month or several months, I mean, that really lets us know how much they're holding on to this and how little growth there actually is becoming within that character. So this being a show about karate, you would expect that there would be some action and some fighting scenes. And there are. I personally could have used more of it because I enjoyed what I did see, but what they give us is awesome to watch. And there is a tournament scene that really takes all of that energy, all of that feeling, all of that hype, and just all of the emotion that we felt from the first film, and it puts us into this series. It was awesome to watch, and just you get the feeling like you were watching the original Karate Kid when it came out. And then the final episode in season 2 has this really long fight scene that is crazy insane. And for a lot of it, they shot it, at least what it looks like, as a continuous take. And that was even more awesome to watch because, I mean, it was just sucked in. The freneticness of it, just the melee that was going on was so outstanding to watch. And we get to see all of these characters interacting and really showing off what they can do, and some of them shining for the very first time. If you're into music, the soundtrack is spectacular too, because a lot of it does harken back to the 80s. Some of it is using the original artist, and some of it is using newer artists to redo the songs and make covers of them, and those new reimaginings are outstanding as well. And I told you that I watched both seasons back to back, and so it was about 10 hours. Now just beware, Netflix did it to me twice, and it was annoying, but they did throw up that screen of like, are you still watching? Yes, I am. Stop judging me. Let me continue my binge. The aesthetics, the tone, the story, and obviously the characters all retain the feel of the Karate Kid movie. And then they take it further, which is outstanding. And if you're wanting to watch something that is entertaining and engaging and might give you some nostalgic feels, then this is definitely one to check out. And I absolutely loved watching William Zabka as Johnny. Just him reprise that role, and more so, him becoming such a sympathetic character, somebody that I wanted to root for. Even though he's down on his luck, even though he's not always succeeding, you see him fight to try and succeed, to try and do the right thing, to rise above what he's been taught, and ultimately show us that massive character growth that he has the potential to do. Seasons 1 and 2 are both on Netflix, with season 3 hopefully coming very soon in 2021. There's no sex or nudity, there is a lot of profanity, and obviously a lot of violence. I give seasons 1 and 2 of Cobra Kai 5 out of 5 couches. Were you a fan of the original movie or any of them? I need to go back and watch the entire, well, I think it's 4, but I'm just going to watch the trilogy because this, I mean, it sucked me in again, took me into that world, took me back to being a kid and watching the first one in the movie theaters. I think I saw the second one in the theaters too, but that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.